but we have a lot of great things to talk about today.
Yes. So, David, I know it sounds salesy. You, to me, are like my retail guru. You and I get into these great conversations about what's happening in the retail space, especially, current conditions of the pandemic. But there's been some interesting changes going on for years, right? I think the pandemic has just kind of accelerated that. Most notably, this week, we've had like this reckoning with Neiman Marcus, J.C. Penney, J. Crew, and I think you just alerted me to Nordstrom. What the hell is happening?
As we've called it, the Great Reset is happening. I think our world of overabundance is now kind of showing itself, and also the level of convenience is going to be changing. So there's just this seismic shift that is going on. I think we've all been waiting for it. Digital, the digital generation, ship to home. I mean, we've had it with our friends at Amazon, and a lot of other retailers have jumped on board. But I think I actually just read an article that, look at this, CVS just posted that prescription deliveries are up 1,000%.
That was a long time coming. That should have happened a long time ago.
I mean, we've been getting prescriptions obviously through the mail, but that is absolutely incredible. So, I was funny. I was sitting thinking about it, and I was like, are people just getting lazy? And it's the easy thing to do. So I'm anxious to see where, granted, we're going to get back and talk about the retailers that you mentioned in a second, but I'm actually really interested to see where the pendulum is going to end up when we do start to return, even though our return is going to be gradual from what we're being told, right? And it makes sense. But I want to come back to this conversation in a year from now and really kind of see where things are at, because obviously we'll get back in our cars and we'll go and we'll start doing things. So we're going to see an overinvestment in these technologies and, delivery and ramping up pipelines and things like that. But, will we need all that in the future? I don't know. Yeah. But as far as these retailers, it's, especially like Neiman's and Nordstrom, and even I'll put J. Crew in that borderline luxury category. Like, it's definitely gonna shrink, because that mid market, if we don't get the unemployment numbers and money flowing back into the economy, like that is really it's going to separate again. You're going to have those upper brands, and if those upper brands are going to be relevant and stay relevant, they've got to start offering something different than what the mass retailers are doing, and they're just adding a little bit more. I remember as a kid going to Neiman's or going to Nordstrom's or going to Macy's and Marshall Fields and all those places. But that was a special something, yes. A treat. They had something that no one else has. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I think I'd love to hear your perspective, but I really think that they're going to have to relook at their business models and figure out, because I'm a former Nordy. So, I used to work for the company, and when I started there, it was definitely someplace special to go. But then I've even seen them water down their lines, over the years. So take it away.
Well, there's a couple of things. The economic toll of the pandemic obviously has its role to play, right? But that is, I don't want to call it swift. It's kind of like the Grim Reaper, right? So it comes in and it just kind of highlights everything that's wrong within a business model. But more importantly, what you see is over the years is you see the change in human consumption, human behavior. Like you said, it's the illusion of choice is a freedom. When there's a lot of choices, you actually cannot make a choice, right? So, I love J. Crew. I've loved it since my college days. Do I want to spend $180 for a sweater where I can kind of get the same look at Target, right? Or Target? For sure, right? And then there is that slow adoption for those traditional brick and mortars to e-commerce, right? So that you have the Amazons, even, Alibaba's and all of the direct consumer brands kicking their asses, right? Because they're like, screw this. We're going to trim the fat. We're going to get you great product right where you need it. I personally, and I know this, we'll talk about generations later. I'm a Gen Xer. You're a Gen Xer. While I'm, being a mall rat was cool back in the day, I hate the mall. But there is something, I shop online, I'm proficient in that, but there is something about going into the store and having that experience, that retail experience. I don't necessarily need the help, but there's something there, right? That
The
textile.
social environment, the dichotomy of the environment is part of why we go there. I mean,
Yes.
any mall on the weekend, and you're just like, wow, like what is all this? Like,
Right. Right.
I don't
And
want to stay long.
right. I don't want to stay long.
Like
I have to go
family, I don't want
early.
to stay long, but you go and you do a visit, get what you need, and leave.
Yeah. Yeah. There's still that excitement of coming home with bags, and you know, it is an experience to say the least. So, um, I'm not going to be pessimistic and say it is the death of brick and mortar and big box, not for sure, but it definitely is.
They have to start offering something different. Your point to the sweater that you could get. Again, the brands have to rework their identities and work harder to attract. I mean, you want to use the mall experience. I mean, God, I remember when I was a young one in retail, and I worked in a mall. We all worked in a mall, right? But even at that point, I would like go and I'd walk the mall and I'd look in the windows, and there was something exciting. It wasn't just a banner, of like, oh, sale. Like now it's like you're just so oblivious to like sale, 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 sale everywhere. And there's no art to retailing anymore.
Yeah.
And I think, maybe Neiman still did it, but still does it a little bit. But even when I walked in there, I'm just like, it's just homogenous and there's no excitement anymore. So I'm really hoping that maybe with the reset of some of these companies, I hope they make it. I'm sure they will. They will start to deliver something exciting to not the masses, but maybe targeted audience. I think they need to go and kind of look to go back to their roots a little bit. Just a thought. And make it exciting. And also, you and I were talking briefly a couple of days ago about there's some of these up top end retailers. There's just too many locations. Like there doesn't need to be that many locations. I mean, we use Nordstrom as an example. 116 stores. They're eliminating 16 stores, so they'll have a solid 100. Now that's split across Nordstrom. I believe Nordstrom Rack. Across the United States. So I really do hope that they invest well into the digital platform. But I'm telling you, there will always be the need for some type of physical retail. I think companies like that need to get more embedded in neighborhoods and maybe not as big of a footprint, because showrooming is going to be necessary when it comes to clothing specifically. I mean, everything. I mean, everybody's trying like, oh, buy everything online. Well, I can only imagine what we're all absorbing as consumers in shipping. That's being embedded back in price because we're getting something, we say we don't like it, and we send it back. So we're still paying for that. So there's an opportunity segment there for retailers to figure out a way to either bring samples or something. Now we got to be careful with the whole COVID thing and making sure that things are clean, and you don't have too many people touching a garment. And there's a lot of things to consider. But I think for the success of these top tier brands, they need to reduce their portfolio down and find a way to bring that experience more localized.
Well, you bring up an excellent point. There's the localization piece, right? And then the other reckoning that's happening. So again, we've got the economic toll, right? You have the changing consumer landscape, but then you have, you fashion has a sustainability issue, right? So even when Corona was contained, it was just in China. Like everything originates in China, especially fashion, especially luxury fashion. So it took a hit immediately. And again, it illuminated the vulnerabilities in supply chain. There's that human supply chain, and then there's the actual physical product supply chain. And then you have the big ones, the big retailers, like later on, embracing e-commerce and even this ship site to store, right? And then Nordstrom is doing the trunk club, right? So they're doing that direct to consumer model. It's like trying to be everything to everyone and not figuring out the value and the contribution, where those deficits are, where the actual surpluses are. So there's a whole lot of shit to figure out. Excuse my French, but absolutely.
There really is. I mean, I'll give a shout out to one of our clients, the Home Depot. Like obviously they're in a very specific segment, but they clearly know who their customer is, right? Yeah. And they have their main customers, and then they know their ancillary circle, which is really, really good. But like you said, with a key brand and then all their spiders that go out, right, trying to get everybody,
not going to work.
Laser focused, because guess what? Consumers are going to know now. They've had time. They've had this last 40, 50, 60 days, whatever you want to call it, to really zero in on brands that know who they are and the ones that are relatable and that also are building a relationship with them. And it's more than it's more than just an email. We always say, kind of getting to the root of their like persona and who they are and really get to know them. And then everyone else is saying like, kind of meet them where they are. If companies don't really get into the mood of doing that and really being clear on what their customers are looking for, I just don't see a need for them.
And that's going to change. It's going to absolutely change. I love digging deep into psychology, and it's necessary, right? I always say thoughts, feelings, actions. That we are wired as human beings for that methodology. So with all, and the entire world is having a shared human experience, a shared human trauma, right?
Yes.
Ripped away from our normal routines, whatever normal is, because just the rapid and immediate change is hard to adjust to. And so now that we've settled into this, we're comfortable, right? I'm talking from my bedroom here, sitting on the couch. Now that we're used to this, the world is opening up again, which, yay, old yay. But now it's like, I just got used to having 14 Zoom calls a day and, not wearing pants and doing everything online. So now I have to adjust again so now I have to have a new normal and whatever that is. And so it is those are little mini traumas, and mini traumas rewire our brains. It's been scientifically proven. So now our behavior changes, how we respond to stimuli and the type of purchasing that we make, right? It's like, do I need, 10 different cheetah print shirts? I do, but do I need to get them from 10 different places, or even like it's time to just pare down completely? Some folks will respond to like, now I want to hoard all of the stuff. I want to get as much as possible. So it's really hard to say now. When I say hard to say, meet customers where they are. If brands don't recognize their role in that trauma recovery, recognize their way, how they interact with communities on an individual level instead of like, this is our global brand. That's going to be another seismic shift, because it's going to affect the bottom line, but then just, now you're rendered irrelevant the very next day.
Yeah, you're so spot on with that. And obviously, that's something that psychosocial breakdown and the behavior of consumers we've been tracking for a long time, right? I'm going to have to post in the comments that video that came from our account staff. That was a mashup of all the brands speaking through, obviously, broadcast on, the empathy and, what they're doing to serve community and blah, 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 blah. And it was actually, I don't remember how many brands were in there. It was a decent clip. And like I said, we'll post it down below. But it was really, really enlightening to just see the same sentiment across. It was like literally they all bought a playbook and they all did the same thing. Music, words, imagery. That doesn't work. Like if consumers would listen, I want everybody to watch it, right? Because if everybody would watch that, they'd be like, what? It's just noise.
Yeah.
And we're not in a noise segment right now. We're not. This is a great time if you're a brand to get out there and really, again, I'm going to go back to build relationships, advertise, be in connection, and be personal with your audience. You and I talked last week that it's a great time to enter the online ad marketplace, like through Facebook and Google and stuff like that, because all those costs are down right now because nobody's spending. For small brands, for individual small businesses, this is an incredible time to jump in into
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But again, if you don't know the work, if you haven't done the work to know your customers, one, you should call us and talk to us, right?
Yeah.
But if you haven't done that work and know how to enliven your audience and really establish good connections with them, then you need to do it.
Yeah. Well, here's another thing that I want to say, and I'm interested to see how many of our our audience, senior marketing folks, especially when they're involved in crafting messages. So if you look at advertising of yesterday, it would sell as the aspirational picture or idealized picture of what life should be. So I even look at if you look at the Facebook portal ads right now, I mean sentimental, and they're definitely showing use. I mean, there's definitely the mechanics of marketing there, but now everything is again glaringly obvious that there's disparities in society. So brands are going to have to address that.
Yeah.
So if I'm laid off, I can't go out and buy a 3.99 Facebook portrait, and that's okay. You know, it's but you can't just talk to one segment, right? At all. So there is going to be this this call to action, which is talk about us all. We're not a monolith, and from car commercials to technology to just fabric softener. Let's have that's the next version of inclusive diversity. Let's have a real picture of life right now.
Hmm.
Got to show it. And so it's like, what does that look like, right? We certainly, when we sit down with our psychosocial, and we do our customer journey, and we talk about the culture scape and all of the different forces and dynamics that are influencing that. We break it down and saying, hey, here's your ideal customer. Sure, talk to them, but that's probably only 3 to 10% of your entire market segment. So you're going to have to adjust some things. You may not necessarily have to adjust price, but you have to address the delivery. And that's the hardest thing for, I think, bigger brands to do, is to adjust the approach and delivery. But guess what? COVID came and said, screw all that. You don't have time to adjust. You got to do it now, which I actually love. Because you and I come from big corporate, right?
Yes.
And what's the number one thing you hear all the time? This is a big ship to turn. So that's going to take some time.
Yeah, and usually what used to take us a year to turn, we're now doing it in less than 30 days. And it's scary, and it's a lot of unknown, and who knows what's underneath the water, but you got to do it because it's what's needed. Again, relevancy, right? If we're not talking to the right audience the right way, might as well forget it. We've covered a lot today, and team, we need to break this down a lot more. And one of the areas that we're going to cover off in one of the future things is, how does this affect influencers? Because everybody is still on their device.
Yeah.
They're getting a lot of information, and the influencers are actually struggling as well to try to find their new space. So in a future one, we're going to talk about that. Yeah. And a whole lot more. I want to really get into behavior. Natalie, what else are we going to talk about?
We'll talk about behavior. We'll talk about some of the new trends that are emerging, especially on the social devices. I'm eager to get into TikTok and talk about that, right? There's been about it for brands, but there's a lot of interesting stuff happening on TikTok. It's kind of like
today, actually, Shopify and Pinterest are getting together to make Pinterest more shoppable. So think of mini catalogs on Pinterest. So, which, is probably really good for Pinterest, because I was bored with it. I think I pinned and made as many boards as I can possibly. I know that I have friends that are super pinners, but I've kind of lost my way with Pinterest. So I'm anxious to see what this is going to do with the whole Shopify platform, and be actually not able just to go to the product, but actually write in Pinterest, put it into a cart, and get it out to you. So it's going to be really, really interesting for, again, a great place for retailers to be.
That's right. And then understanding what the data is. A lot of retailers have the social data. What we're going to do is talk about how to pull the insights out of it. It's one thing say that there's, X amount of people this age on this platform at this time, this is what they're searching for. But why? Get to the why. What does that mean? And then how do we turn that into actionable results for you, right? So we'll get into that too. And then also, just general news in the industry. It's going to be a good time.
I love it. Well, we look forward to seeing everybody again. We're going to also do this live from time to time because we want to invite you in and hear your comments and have an active, fun discussion. We're here to build a community and be a resource for everyone that is within the retail space or has retail customers. Right, Natalie?
Absolutely.
Awesome. David Gacsko.
Natalie Black.
With Hierarchy. Stay tuned for more. Thank you.